Hello and welcome to this week's show of Weighted Donuts. I'm Wayne Unger, and tonight I have I have the Emperor of the comfortably zoned radio empire, co-hosting Ralph Tyko. Ralph, welcome.
Hey Wayne, thanks for having me. I'm very honored.
And tonight's guest is someone who has been so gracious. For those of you that are not a part of our Facebook page, and it's simply called Weighted Donuts, you've been missing out on some great photographs, great old Yankee photographs posted by Jack Degraw. Jack, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it, and it's great to be on the air with Ralph.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you so much.
So,
very, very high praise. You're a baseball maven.
So Jack, you love Yankee history. I mean, I know you love the present Yankees, but you're really, into the whole Yankee history thing. And you're actually younger than me. So tell me, how where did your love for baseball history start?
Well, it started like in 1964. The first Yankee game I went to was August 8th, 1964. And I even remember the score. The Orioles beat the Yankees 6-5. And it was Old Timers Day. And Joe Dimagio played the Old Timers game and got a single. So I can always say I've seen Joe Dimagio play.
Well, nice.
Well,
very nice.
Coincidentally, my very first baseball game, I think it was 65 or 66, I'm not sure, was actually at Shea Stadium, and it was an Old Timers game that day. So, although there were, there really weren't many Mets Old Timers, but I remember, you know who I think might have pitched for the Old Timers? One of the guys might have been Carlton Willie.
Okay, remember the name.
So,
you would enjoy this story then. Carlton Willie walked by the candy store that you and I hung at as kids when he was pitching with the Mets. One night we're hanging a nice summer evening, spring evening, and walks by Carlton Willie, former Milwaukee Brave relief pitcher, and he was not a particularly great New York Met pitcher, but he fit right in in those days. My first time, I'll tell you, my first time at Yankee Stadium was the second game I ever attended in my life. My grandfather started me out in 1951. I was 4.5 years old. He took me to the Polo Grounds first, Yankee Stadium second, and the Ebbets Field third. I got to see Joe Dimagio. He pointed it out, and he kept saying, did my grandfather, this is Joe Dimagio playing. It's his last year, probably the last time you'll ever see him. Ralphie, you saw Joe Dimagio play. And I can remember those words as if it were yesterday. My grandfather, Phil Niss, who made my passion come alive in those days. And so we both got to see Joe Dimagio.
That's right.
That's
pretty cool. That's
and Ralph, if you remember, and Jack, you listened to the show too with Ron Bloomberg.
Yes.
Do you remember? Ralph asked Ron Bloomberg about old timers games, and Ron said that Joe Dimagio was assigned to share a locker with Ron Bloomberg, and Ron was like a kid, and he said he even had to lend DiMaggio a pair of spikes. It was was better when Ron told it, but it was.
Oh, in Ron, you could hear the little boy in Ron's voice, just like you can when we talk about Joe Dimagio, the absolute. He worshipped the guy, as all baseball fans do. Not as humans. We don't worship these players like when we were kids blindly. We worship their skills. As human beings, they're human beings. People are people are gray. They're not either, good or bad. It's a combination. Unless you're a neo-Nazi, and then that's bad.
Yeah.
That was just for Trump. In case he listens to the show, I wanted to clarify that for him. Neo-Nazis are bad, Donald. You can't talk that way. You can't say they're good on both sides. No good. No, Donnie. Okay, excuse me.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey, listen. Maybe somebody will pick it up and alert him to it. And all we need is one tweet, and listenership will go through the roof.
If Trump says, I was listening to a Jew boy tonight from Alameda, California, and he set my mind straight. He said, "Bah, Donnie, you bad boy." And I realized nobody said that to me when I was a kid. They humored me. If they just said, you bad, you have to change. You have to wake up. You have to be a human being. You can't be a schmuck.
Okay.
They didn't. So
let's move on. Let's move on back to baseball. So
go ahead.
last night I was talking with Jack, and I tell you, Jack, I told Jack how the show got its name, and he told me an Elston Howard story. Jack, please tell us the story.
Okay, well, this was told to me by Johnny Blanchard, who was a great guy. The first game I went to in '64, he hit a home run. He signed a ticket stub for me, and I still have it. But that was the year, '61. Louis Arroyo saved all the games. So before one game in September, they got a message in the Yankee clubhouse that telling Louis the next time he come into the game, they were going to go across the street. I think it was the Bronx Courthouse or whatever, one of those big buildings over there, and they were going to shoot him next time he come in the game. So before the game, the Yankees are in batting practice. They're out in left field. Louis comes out to left. They go to center. Louis goes to center. They go to right. Louis goes to right. They go in the dugout. So that day, in the ninth inning, they bring in Louis Arroyo, and Elston Howard is catching. So Louis on the mound. He yells, "Elston!" Elston don't pay no attention to him. Second time he yells, "Elston!" Elston didn't pay no attention to him. The third time he yelled, "Elston!" Elston says, "Fuck you, he might be a bad shot."
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Louis Arroyo came in for Whitey Ford. They teamed up for an inordinate amount of wins, and Arroyo took over for Ryan Duran as the closer, if I recall.
Yeah.
And won very big. That was great Yankee teams. You mentioned the Yankees. They played the Cardinals that year in the World Series with a former Yankee, Roger Maris.
That was my favorite.
Roger was?
Oh, yeah, Roger Maris.
I think I commented on a picture that you put up of Roger in a Cardinal uniform with a smile on his face, almost an angelic smile, that you never saw him so relaxed in any Yankee picture going. He was tense playing in New York. He didn't want to be there, loved Kansas City, loved the Midwest, ended up going to the Cardinals, obviously in the same state, and was happy again. Tragically died very, very young.
Yeah, 51. Well, I think in 65, Roger, he broke his wrist or something at a play at home plate, and the Yankees said it was a sprain, and they didn't find out till the end of the year when Roger went to his own doctor to find out he played like 3 months with a broken wrist.
And they didn't tell him either.
Yeah.
And he was not the same when he went to the Cardinals, but he was, aside from having all that power that he demonstrated in New York, he was still a darn good ball player. Very solid in the field, great arm. And what people don't remember about Roger Maris is that he won the MVP the year before he went for the record in that home run chase, and arguably broke Babe Ruth's record. When I say arguably, the whole thing about games played and the asterisk and all this, and that I must make note that the commissioner of the president of the American League, Ford Frick, who was doing all that talking about putting in an asterisk and kind of downplaying the record and this, that, and the other thing. He had been Babe Ruth's ghostwriter on a book that he wrote. They were so he was incredibly prejudiced along those lines, and it gave Roger a bad rep. But that whole thing made Mickey Mantle a hero. Mickey Mantle had been booed relentlessly by New Yorkers, and he didn't really play the good guy until that Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle home run race, and people started loving Mickey, and boy, did they ever love him. And Roger just didn't stand a chance. He didn't have the charisma, the personality, the patience to deal with the New York press, any of that stuff. So you guys
and also, it was also falsely reported back then, because actually of all people, I remember my mother telling me that Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris did not get along, that they didn't like each other. So I guess she fell victim to to the same gossip when they actually were roommates. They shared an apartment
in Queens, where we grew up, Wayne.
Very close. I believe it was in Kew Gardens.
Okay, that I didn't know. I didn't know the exact locale.
I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it was Kew Gardens.
Were you guys impressed? I'm going to ask both of you, if I might, with the movie 61, as I was.
Yes, I was very impressed with it.
Yes, and I actually have a copy. It was one of the few DVDs that I did not donate to pare down my possessions when I moved. It was one of the DVDs I hung on to.
Yeah, you couldn't give up. What got me was the absolute authenticity of the uniforms and the batting.
Wait! I got to interrupt you. Authenticity.
Wayne, without you, my God, I'm speaking mush words. Yeah, I thank you.
Listen, Just don't mispronounce, mistake anybody's name tonight. We don't want to be checking the obituaries tomorrow, okay?
I know, I'm famous for getting there. We got to tell that. You tell the story well, Wayne.
I'll tell the story. Okay. So, the first time we had Dan Zimborski on. Are you familiar with Dan Zimborski? He he writes for ESPN. He's a stat genius. He does these ZiPS projections. He overall, brilliant baseball mind, brilliant mind in general, really nice guy. So, Ralph was asking him, like, how did you get into this? What were your influences? And, of course, he mentions Bill James and the baseball abstract, and he mentions a guy named Ron Chandler, who wrote many books on, fantasy baseball. And Ralph kept calling him Gary Shandling. and the next day, we know who died, right?
Oh, boy.
Gary Shandling, they found him dead the next day. And Wayne thinks it's the Comfortably Zoned radio network jinx brought on. But I think it's my jinx, not the network. I don't blame the network. And ironically, I saw Gary Shandling in Sacramento in the 70s doing comedy at one of the first comedy clubs. And I ended up going into comedy, not specifically because of that, but that was a big influence. His type of humor, dry humor, and very, very, very low-key. And I loved his cable television show, and he played a talk show host. That was terrific. Speaking of television, I wanted to ask you, Wayne, off the air many times, never have. Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
You've actually have asked me that. In the past, when I had HBO, I would watch it. Sometimes I'm not a big TV watcher in general. My TV goes on.
The reason I brought that up now is that Larry David when he created Seinfeld, and he did the voice of George Steinbrenner on Seinfeld. He said that was his only cameo appearance on the show in all the years he did it, but he did the voice of Steinbrenner. And that whole thing with George Costanza and working in the Yankee front office is absolutely priceless.
Great stuff.
It is. And you know what? And while we're on the subject of George Steinbrenner, Jack, what did you think of George Steinbrenner? And let's let's span it over the years, because for me, my opinion of him changed. Well, I shouldn't say it changed. I should say I saw a change in George Steinbrenner. But what did you think of George Steinbrenner over the years, being a Yankee fan?
Well, in the 70s, I loved him. He helped get the Yankees back, in first place and winning World Series. In the 80s, I think he lost it a little bit because he was trading everybody and there was no patience and stuff. And then, like in the 90s, he became like everybody's lovable uncle or something. Because when I come down here, I got a chance to meet him a bunch of times, and he was a nice guy. So I think overall, he did a great job with the Yankees.
Yeah, I always tell people it was very difficult because of George to be a Yankee fan in the 80s. He was just way too impatient, way too impulsive. He was just putting teams together that didn't make sense, or trying to. And then of course, what really turned it around. Yeah, but not only that, what really turned it around was, and I always say this, that Howie Spira should have been given a ring every year the Yankees won, from 96 to 2000, the 4 years that they won. Was it 4? Was it 5? It was 96, 97. It was four championships, or was it 5? I'm losing track now.
No,
but
it wasn't anywhere near 5. I think it was 3.
It was 4.
3.
No, it was 4. It was 96, 98, 99.
Oh,
in
okay,
2000.
not in a row.
2000.
Not in a row like
Yes.
the first Yankee time.
Three in a
No,
row.
not in a row.
Yeah.
Not in a row. They didn't get it in '97. They lost in the playoffs to Cleveland. Yes. But I always say, if, George Steinbrenner, was put on the, he was suspended from baseball, and because of, his involvement with Howie Spirit trying to get dirt on Dave Winfield, I believe it was. And I always say, so then, so Gene Michael was able to put the team together, was able to hang on to guys and not have to trade guys, for veterans that didn't fit, and let the team develop. And so because of that, I would say
Gabe Paul put the first one together with Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
So yes, who knows what would have happened if Steinbrenner stayed. But I just want to say, Steinbrenner, what he did to Billy Martin, who was absolutely a sick, addicted, alcohol-addicted human being, notwithstanding the fact that all he ever wanted to do was be a Yankee manager. And Steinbrenner fucked with him from here to Kalamazoo. Unbelievable. Back and forth, playing on his emotions. Knew he was a sick puppy, and used that whole. And he ended up using other Yankee managers. Like, for instance, when he announced that that he was, I think it was Old Timers Day, Steinbrenner announced big announcement that Billy Martin, now coming back, is the manager of the Yankees. Well, Lemon was the manager at the time. What do you suppose that did to him as a human being? You don't take him aside, and we're going to make it. He didn't do. Listen.
I would think that Steinbrenner did take him aside. Unless you know something that I don't know, that it was public knowledge that was a total surprise to Bob Lemon. I couldn't imagine.
I don't know. I never heard that he did take him aside. I was just, I was using that as an example of fallout. I mean, he messed with Dick Hauser. There were a number of managers that came in.
Well, yeah, but you know what?
Michael, Lou Piniella.
Right.
But Yogi Berra. But you know what? But listen, but Dick Hauser stuck it right back to him and took Kansas City to the World Series.
That's true. That is very true.
So,
but all in all, he was a multifacited guy. But he was kind of.
But you know what?
Trump-like.
But you know what? You have to listen.
Kind of a tyrant.
But
would you say?
But you know what? Listen, there was an emotional instability in Steinbrenner himself. So in a way, he too was a sick and suffering individual. Maybe not with alcohol, but he too was in his own way a sick and suffering individual. So. And you know what? He always, Billy Martin was always well compensated financially by George Steinbrenner. He was always taken care of very well financially. And, and just because all he ever wanted to do was be the Yankee manager doesn't mean that that's what Steinbrenner should have done. And Billy Martin, let's face it, he was a nasty drunk. He was a very nasty drunk. And there's a lot of ball players out there that will will tell you that. And they weren't all that fond of Billy Martin. So,
and I must say, as a Mets fan,
street.
I must say, I've always, as a Mets fan, a giant apologist, this, that, and the other thing, over the years, I always said, give me an owner who will spend the bank. And, that I don't care what he's like personally. At least let him try and open the pocketbooks, and he did that. You got to give him credit for at least being able to play the game after the game changed. In other words, owners before free agency, they had the hammer, and free agency comes and things changed, and Steinbrenner was the guy right there to start throwing out bucks. And as fans, even if it does, at first he threw out a lot of money, and they laughed at him because they say, "Hey, you got to know where to spend it," but it still gave the fans the idea that at least they were trying, and I didn't get that very often over the years from the Mets, and I don't get that from Wilpon today, and and I must take this opportunity on the fly to congratulate Wayne on because we had this thing going always. You think the Yankees are better than the Mets this year? Where the Mets going to go? Where the Yankees going to go? They kicked our ass. This is the fourth night when we were making this recording that the Yankees beat the Mets in the Subway Series. 4 games in a row. And I think tonight was a shutout. It was at least until.
Well, tonight was
the last time I looked, it was 7-1. Oh, it's 7-5.
Yeah, the Granderson hit a grand slam in the 9th inning with no outs. That's why I've been so quiet. I've been nervous over here. The game just ended.
Oh. Okay, and the Yankees held on.
Yeah.
Did Chapman come in and get the save? Just out of
No,
curiosity?
Betances come
in.
Okay.
Yeah, they brought in Betances.
I wonder if he's going to turn out that he's hurt. We were talking about the other night on the Yankee show, Wayne, when you guessed it, and because the breaking pitch slide is harder to throw, more torque on the arm, this and the other thing. He's still throwing velocity, but something's wrong with him. He was unhittable for so long. But Betances coming. They have a great bullpen other than Chapman. The rich get richer.
But yet, if their bullpen is what struggled this year. I mean, they've blown like 20 games.
I know, but it's been coming together of late.
Yeah, it has.
So we'll see.
I mean, Jack. So what do you think about the overall? What do you think about this team this year?
Yankees?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're going to playoffs. I like what they've done. I like all the young guys they've got. I think you got to be thrilled with what Judge has done. Sanchez has struggled defensively, but they'll get that figured out. I like the balance in the lineup. They're just not relying on one guy. And if the bullpen can get together like they have been, who knows? Maybe they could go all the way. And they got
Jack,
Tyler Austin back tonight.
Judge's really steep slump that he's been in, notwithstanding a monstrous home run recently. I guess it was last night. I don't know what he did tonight. He has been striking out a lot and reverting to old habits. Does that worry you? Do you think does the name Charbonneau cross your mind?
No, not you know what?
That bad.
No, not Charbonneau. But Judge again. He went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts tonight, and that's it should be a cause for concern. His numbers across the board still look really nice. 288, 418, 608, but all the numbers except for his OBP, because they're still walking him a lot. But his batting average is down got to be down like 50 points. Slugging down 100 and something points. I mean, granted, they weren't, realistically sustainable levels. But at the pace he's going,
but it's a dramatic fall off, nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, to say the least. I believe like his first half. I'll give it to you like this. Here's his batting line pre All-Star. Okay, 329, 448, 691. Okay, now his post All-Star batting line. Okay, now pre All-Star was 301 at bats. Post All-Star is 108 at bats. So it's not as big a sample, but it's still a decent sample, And his numbers are 185, 346, 398. Now the thing that stands out though is, his on base average. I mean, you can just tell like
dropped 100 points right there.
They're actually walking him at a much greater rate. But unfortunately, he's also, he's fallen victim. He's also striking out at a much greater rate. I mean, he struck out 109 times in 301 at bats, and now he struck out 50 times in 108 at bats. So
you guys follow the day-to-day Yankee lineup closer than I do. I don't remember him getting but 2 or 3 days rest, if that, if 3.
Yeah, he plays almost every day.
I know. Should Girardi just, sit him down for a series, have him sit on the bench and talk to the batting coach, whatever, just take some pressure off of him.
Well, you know what it could be too. Maybe he's like you say, Ralph. Maybe he's just getting tired. I mean, this is probably the most games he's ever played in one season.
Well, you know what? He's
young and strong to
he's
get
played
tired.
he's played in 116 games, and in those 116 games, he's played 105 of them in the field. So he has had some days as a DH, and it's too early to start getting tired.
No, I'm talking for his head, not for his physicality. In other words, he's 22 years old. He's a big guy.
No,
sure, he's not
older.
tired.
I believe he's older. He's 25.
Oh, okay.
He's,
yeah.
But listen. It's all about the adjustments. It's all about, remember, like whatever it is, you knew, just like he made adjustments after the first 3 games of the year. They moved him off the plate a little bit. They shortened his leg kick a little bit, and and he was he wasn't swinging at everything. He made some adjustments, and the scouts go to the videotapes. They just go over it over and over and over again, and they just find that one at bat. They find that one at bat where like somebody gets him and it's okay. Let's try this, and then as soon as something works, they just keep going to it until it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what he's gonna have to figure out. There's no other way around it.
Do they play him in a shift?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't do that.
No.
Okay.
Because he doesn't try to pull the ball. That's one thing he doesn't do. He doesn't try to pull because he's so strong. He can hit it out anywhere.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, you mentioned Johnny Blanchard. Let's go back to him for a second, if I might. He was the 3rd catcher on the Yankees in '61 who hit 20 home runs. 3 catches, Howard, Berra, and Blanchard. And I remember that about him, and I remember that he cried like a baby when he was traded. He wanted to be a Yankee. he ended up Kansas City, as many did.
Well, he told me a story when he went to the Athletics. They wanted him to come on the field, all the players before the game, and sing happy birthday to the mule. And Johnny says, I'm not going to go on the field and sing to some goddamn mule. I mean, what's going on here?
Charlie had his ways. He was a promoter.
Yeah.
I wonder if Judge staying in the lineup so much has to do with the finances, that he puts butts in the seats, and it's a fine line whether or not to take him out. And they probably would have if that weren't the case, if you weren't drawing this monumental amount of folks. Imagine coming in from Connecticut or wherever, long distance away, not that Connecticut is, to watch a Yankee game and then Judge is not playing. The business side has become so prevalent in baseball that it wouldn't surprise me if Girardi's getting pressure to keep him in that he wouldn't ordinarily get. And that adds to it. That adds to the New York thing, playing in New York, that Judge is going to just have to get used to. So take the good, the bad, and the ugly with it. I'd like to see him do well because, by all accounts, he's a good guy.
He's a great kid. He's really a great kid.
Perhaps they should drop him in the order.
That's certainly an idea.
But it's true though that he is that mesmerizing figure. Okay, because I can tell you, like when I have the game on, and I'm doing stuff, and I'm like, let's say it's on in the living room, and and like I have like an open space, so from my kitchen I can see it. So if I'm doing stuff and the game is on, I'm just listening. But when he comes to bat, I make sure I'm in front of the TV. It's just how it is, and I'm sure it's that way for. Yeah. Yeah. It's like if you know he's coming up, like you don't go to the concession stand.
Right.
Like Mickey Mantle.
Mantle,
yeah.
Tyko, Cespedes to a certain extent now with the Mets. You pay heed. John Carlos Stanton. Wouldn't it be something if he ended up as a Yankee?
Oh, that would be terrific.
Yeah, well, but you know what?
Would you be surprised, Wayne?
Would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't know if I see that happening. I really don't. I mean, and then the thing is, like, what do you give up for a guy like that? Or I should say, what do you, or I should say, if you're the Marlins, what do you take for, what do you expect?
The Yankees are well stocked with.
Like, all right, like who?
You'd probably have to give up Frazier and Torres.
And maybe some low minor league guys, but with the Marlins, they're dumping salary. So
I got news for you. If I'm the Marlins, if you want Giancarlo Stanton, okay, well, let's start with Judge.
Wow. I don't think you're going to get Judge.
Well, I mean, you know what? Think about it. Like, I don't think that's so crazy, to be honest with you.
Well, it's interesting. Let's put it that way. But, yeah, it is interesting because the Marlins, well, it's based on their business needs. It's based on their salary needs, too. But I just don't think that, as you say, he attracts so much attention and they've got this thing going with him and Sanchez. And again, they got to hope that this last month or so has been an enigma, an aberration. So
I mean, but
the rest of the season very interesting.
I mean, think about this though. Okay, Stanton is only a couple years older. I mean, the whole thing is whether or not you want to pay that money.
Well,
I mean,
how
don't forget.
much is left on his contract, on Stanton's contract?
Oh, I mean, a whole lot of years. Number one, but number two, he can opt out in. He can opt out, I think, in 2 years. So, but I mean, he has like a 10-year, $30 million contract. But I mean, think about it. If I'm the Marlins,
that's not going to run off the Yankees.
Well, but the thing is, listen, they have A-Rod and Sabathia coming off the books, but
true.
But all right, let's see. This
but
year,
you got to spend that money.
He's getting $14.5 million this year. After this year, though, for the next 10 years, he gets between $25 and $32 million. Okay, so basically, here I'll run it. Starting
monopoly. It's monopoly money.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, so starting next year, I'm just going to give you here, and the number is in millions. All right, year by year, starting next year, 25, 26, 26, 29, 29. 32, 32, 32, 29, 29, 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
That very same Joe Dimagio we're talking about
is
spinning over in his frickin' grave as we say these words. It's just unbelievable.
You know what, though? Listen, for his time, even after he stopped playing, Joe Dimagio milked his name for every nickel he could. Okay?
No question.
Mr. Coffee,
yeah.
Bowery Savings Bank. As a matter of fact, there's this one story, I believe it was in Ben Creamer's book, and which wasn't really flattering about Joe Dimagio, the person, where Joe was somewhere at a party, somewhere in some kind of event, and the guy wanted his autograph, and the guy, and Joe told the guy to write him a check. I forgot for how much it was, and Joe wrote him a check and gave it to him, and he said, okay. He goes, when you get the canceled check back, you'll have my autograph. Because remember back in the day, nowadays, you get, on your statement, you get a page with photocopies of your checks. If you even write checks. I mean, I barely write a check anymore. But back in the day, you would get the actual physical check back after it was cashed.
Yes, you would. Yes. And
so, Johnny Blanchard was telling me a story. He had somebody go ask DiMaggio for autographs for two of Blanchard's kids, and Joe wouldn't sign for him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the Moose went up, Moose Scourin, and Joe said no, and Moose said, you sign these damn things. Well, what are you going to do, take the money with you? So.
Yeah. And boy, he tried because, among other things, among the bank and Mr. Coffee, he made a lot of money signing bats and autographs. He hooked up with an attorney in Florida. Can't think of his name. Morris Engelberg.
And Morris Engelberg, yeah.
My brother worked for him for a while. My brother was a tax accountant in Morris's office, and he would run into Dimagio, and Dimagio would be impeccably dressed with a red tie and a white shirt and a dark suit, and he must have seen my brother 100 times, and every time he passed him, every time he saw me, he'd go, "Hi there." Like there, never a greeting. "How you doing, Joe? How you doing, Bruce?" You know, it's a small office. He'd sit there and sign autographs for hours. "Hi there," like some sort of king. My brother got a big kick out of that. Anyway, see, I think of you, Bruce. You're out there in Florida yourself, not far from Wayne. You're going to be attending the reunion, and enjoy. It's a little personal message we got going.
Okay.
You do have a reunion.
Does Bruce listen to the show?
I probably think he does. We don't communicate very much on a number of.
You know what? I hope I remember to ask him next Friday. So
it's next Friday. Next Friday. Whoa.
Next Friday.
Man,
but listen, getting back to Mr. Stanton. So think about it now, okay? I mean, you're talking about Mike Stanton. I mean, that's like, so think about it. That's like trading, like, let's see, like Willie Stargell at his peak. What do you give up for a guy like that? I mean, I should say, if you're the Marlins, how can you justify to your fans?
Get prospects that you don't have to pay that outrageous amount of money to.
I understand that, but he's their main draw. I mean, and not only that, we're talking about he's turned it around. He's having an amazing year. He's leading the majors in home runs. He's like actually on pace to surpass Roger Maris's home run record. So
he's got 44 homers.
Yeah.
44. I thought it was 43. He must have hit one tonight.
44 homers, 94 RBIs. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you're the Marlins, you can't, listen, particularly with new ownership coming in, I would imagine that new ownership would they'd be like, "Oh no, you don't trade him until no, you don't trade him. You're doing the sale first." And actually, at this point, you know what? I would think present ownership doesn't care, or if they did do it, they would have to do it with the blessing of ownership coming in, because we're selling the team.
Maybe all those dollars on the books doesn't look good to new ownership. Maybe they think with him they're not winning. And new ownership is coming in, and they're going to be stuck with $25 million a year to pay a guy who may be worth it from a number standpoint.
Listen, they're buying the team for $1.2 billion. Okay? And it's not like, you don't have comparable guys making that I mean, listen, Cespedes makes $25 million or more. I would certainly rather have Stanton and Cespedes any day of the week.
As would I.
Okay. Mike Trout, I believe I don't know if his contract kicked in, but he's like $30 million a year. Although, it's not like I can't make that same statement that I'd rather have Stanton and Trout, but Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols. Look at these guys, what they're getting. So,
big money's the commonplace, and so it wouldn't surprise me if the Yankees pulled the trigger on that. Again, what the Marlins are trying to accomplish, I don't know if they're trying to win within the next 2 or 3 years, if they realize that that envelope for winning is not going to open. Remember, they lost in a tragic boating accident. they lost their best pitcher.
Well, here's the thing. The club is being sold. All right, it's already been approved. Jeter's group, is buying it for $1.2 billion. So right now, whatever the present Marlins management is thinking, it's moot. It's moot.
I think the new management is probably making the decisions along. You couldn't make a decision like getting rid of Stanton without, one way or the other, whatever you get for him, without new management being involved in the decision.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter what present management thinks. The whole thing is moot.
Right.
And well, let me ask you this. And Jack, let me pose the question to you too.
Okay.
Would you rather the Yankees? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that either one is happening. Would you rather the Yankees have Giancarlo Stanton, or let's just say they can make a trade for him after the season, or would you rather wait another year and see the Yankees sign Bryce Harper if they can pull that off?
Well, I'd rather see Stanton than Harper. I'm not a big Bryce Harper guy.
Okay. And why is that? I'm just curious.
I just feel like, he's a great player and stuff, but there's just something, I don't know, he seems to be like a distraction, a clubhouse distraction. I'd rather see what the Yankees are doing, keeping Judge and Frazier. I'd like to see him get the third baseman from the Orioles. That's who I'd like to see the Yankees get.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to see Mets get
Machado.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the guy. Would you guys like Donaldson, for instance, as a third baseman?
I'd like Donaldson. I wouldn't mind him seeing him come to the Yankees.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, it all depends on the price. But you know what? Again, I don't know. I don't see. You know what? I don't know if I see that happening. And but then what do you do with Gleyber Torres? Because you're certainly not playing him at shortstop the way Didi Gregorius is playing.
No, Didi's going to be there for years.
And Stalin Castro, I believe, is still signed for 2 or 3 years. And, you don't want to move him the way he's played. So, Torres is, looking to be your guy at third.
Yeah.
So what do so if you sign it, let's just say you were able to sign him, Machado. So here's the big dilemma. Now, Torres is out. He had Tommy John surgery on his non-throwing arm. He comes back next year. He rehabs. He comes back. He makes the club, and let's just say he doesn't have a Gary Sanchez debut like Gary Sanchez had last year, but let's just say he has a solid debut. And he's still young, and and everything is pointing upward. What do you do after the end of the season? A guy like Machado is available. Do you go after a guy like Machado? Do you commit $30 million a year to a guy like him? Or do you say, you know what, let's see how Torres does? He's developing. He's young. He's only like 21 or 22 years old now. And do you put the money somewhere else?
Yeah. And you got
see how he matures.
Back. Fowler was a terrific prospect before he got hurt. Prognosis on him, is he going to be back to what he was, do you think?
You know what? I don't know, but I tell you, I hear he may not be back till May or June. That was a nasty injury. So
yeah, terrible luck.
Yeah, a surface-mounted outlet box. You know, that's what he
Imagine the
crashed
suit
into.
he's going to have over at Comiskey Park over that.
I kind of wonder, actually, I wonder if, what the story, where that falls under. I don't know if he actually can have a lawsuit with that, or if they're indemnified somehow, or if that's for all you know, something like that falls under workman's comp.
Yeah.
I don't know what the legality is on that. I really don't.
Yeah, well, it wasn't padded, and obviously we saw the effects of it, so we'll see.
Well, we'll see how he does in Oakland.
Anyway, gentlemen, I want to thank you both for coming on, and
we finally get
Jack,
to meet Jack. This is terrific.
Well, thanks, guys. I hope I didn't kill your ratings or anything.
Nah,
I'll tell you what,
fine.
You've got what we're always looking for, passion. All of the people we have as hosts and as guests share that. They just have a certain special thing about baseball, or whatever it is they're talking about. We have a non-baseball sports show as well. And our guests just share that, and so do our hosts. So you fit right in, Jack. Thank you, Wayne, for having me, and this is a good time because I get to meet Jack and listen to it in your voice, how much you love it, and that makes me feel good.
Well, keep up the great work, guys. I mean, I appreciate all you do, and I love listening to you. I've learned a lot.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thanks
you
for your feedback over the months, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you, Wayne, for having me.
Thank you both for coming on, gentlemen, and that wraps up this week's show. We'll be back next week and get back to the scores. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.